Alright folks, you ready for game 2? I certainly am, so here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game 2 of this best of 7 finals in the Twitch TV Invitational. I bring you Empire.Kas. He is in the blue trunks. He is playing Terran to the southwest of the skirmishes plateau. Versus his opponent, mouz.MaNa. He is in the green trunks, and he is playing Protoss to the northeast. Well, that was some impressive play there by Mana. Very passive style, honestly. I would never, ever, ever want to get into late-game PvT with Mana. Unless, of course, it was a 2v2 and I was playing with Mana on my side. Because that is just some scary shiz you just saw there. Kas even asked in the channel, God, how do you kill a passive Protoss? A great question. But you've got to kill him quicker than that. You can't let Mana get 5 or 6 bases. He was producing 3 Colossus at a time by the end of that, as well as High Templar. It's insane. Kas is a great player, but it's Mana's PvT. You have to understand how good Mana's PvT actually is. It's so good. Oh yeah, he's always been pretty legendary for his PvT. One of the best PvTers in Europe, if not the best, if we don't count Naniwa, of course, who is not currently in Europe. Some scary stuff. Well, let's see what Kas does. Perhaps he'll get a little bit more aggressive. He's going to go with the gasless expansion once again, unless he's going to add several more racks, which he could have started already if he was planning on doing that. So gasless expand is more than likely. I think what we need to see from Kas here is more drops. He attempted 1, which failed. He needs to drop more than that. Needs to do more harassment. Needs to take out key tech structures, harass the economy of Mana. He can't just let him live. Kas pretty much left Mana alone for the entire game, aside from that one double-pronged attack, which actually did absolutely nothing. The thing about Mana is that... The thing about Protoss... The thing to exploit about late-game Protoss is the fact that they're really good at responding to drops thanks to the warp-in mechanic. But when they're maxed out, they can't warp in. Even when they're close to being maxed out, they can't do that. So that's the kind of time where as long as you've got enough map awareness to know where the death ball is, you can strike at multiple bases. Now, Kas wasn't able to do that. So, unfortunately, for him at any rate, Mana's economy grew unhindered. Problematic. Let's see what Kas can do this time around, though. Mana with a simple gateway. Nothing fancy yet. 2 more barracks being added on for Kas, so sticking with exactly the same build, and nothing necessarily unusual about that, honestly. Kas has a tendency to stick to a very safe build. I mean, you gotta bear in mind, Kas is a machine when it comes to laddering, so his builds are kind of affected by that. The fact that he could come against pretty much anything on a ladder, so he tends to have these really safe, well-rounded builds that aren't really weak to anything in particular. The problem being that they're not necessarily strong against anything either. Sort of a middle-of-the-road, this can win me my games as long as I play skillfully kind of build. It's not to say that he can't vary it up, and he might have to in this series. Because that build is the same as he did last time, and it didn't get him anywhere. So we'll see how it goes. Now the gas finally being picked up on 29 supply. That's fairly late. It's going to delay the medevac tech and, of course, stim and things like that, of course. Mana, on the other hand, with the Nexus coming down. Not really bothering to be aggressive just yet. Map control in his favor simply because he holds this tower. Doesn't really matter too much because Kas is playing very, very defensively. Second gateway up for Mana here. Now, if Mana wants to play nice and comfortably, he is going to end up doing the same thing he did last time. Slow expansion into a large Colossus Death Ball. A couple of sentries to hold that, so there shouldn't be any problems coming in there. I'll have to see if Kas decides to vary it up just a little bit and decide to get a little bit more aggressive. I don't know, I think this build would kind of hinders him in terms of his early game aggression. He doesn't have a lot of options. This is a great map to drop on, for instance, but because of how late the gas gets taken, that can delay the factory and, of course, delay then the starport. Something to consider. Also delays the stim and the combat shield and any kind of upgrades. He's only taken 2 gas rather than 4 here as well. We're going to be getting that anytime soon. And there's the factory coming in. In the meantime, robotics facility on the way up for Mana, who once again is playing very, very defensively, very cautiously, very passively. A few units moving out here and there just to try and secure the map. Can't really go up that ramp. He will die if he does so. Have to see how quickly this Colossus comes out. Mana's on 3 gates. He could very easily go for a robo. And if his build order last time was anything to go by, he goes for a robo and then grabs 2 more geysers. If he was planning to go for a Stargate, He would have done it a bit earlier. And there you see the robotics bay going down. Alright. Well, it's going to be the same kind of build coming up here, as we thought, and honestly, it's mirroring it from Kas, and you notice the exact same number of Marines from last time, then adding the Marauder on at a later point, building a small number of Marauders, and then gradually shifting his composition, so it's heavier on Marauders if he's going up against Colossus, which he is. Much, much better idea, and of course rips through Stalkers as well. Aggressive pylon coming in here. There is an observer out, so he could potentially warp in here, past that defensive line, do a little bit of harassment here and there. Actually kind of surprised to see Mana not going for a Blink Stalker build considering the map, but hey, this will do the job for him. Did it against Tarson, worked very well on this map. There's a couple of Zealots warped in past that line, and Kas doesn't actually see that yet. He's distracted with the fire going on at the front, and those Zealots are going to make their way into the mineral line, do some pretty significant economic damage. Choppy, choppy, here we go. It slices, it dices, ladies and gentlemen. Some good economic harassment being done right here by mouz.MaNa, and he will be shut down eventually, but how much damage did he do? He killed 6 workers. Not a bad little start, is it? 6 workers for 2 Zealots is a great trade in anyone's book. Mana's aggressive pylon able to harass. And this is the problem, I suppose. If Mana was able to poke and prod at his opponent and get a significant economic advantage, then how the hell do you beat him? The answer is you've got to fight back. You've got to drop. You've got to harass. If you don't do that, you end up in a nasty spot. 6 more gateways coming on, and the Colossus coming onto the field as well. And Kas doesn't have any Vikings yet. He'll, needless to say, want to try and get a medevac count of at least 3 or 4 before he starts building Vikings. And still, engaging into Mana's forces, it's unpleasant stuff. You've seen it before. It's a nasty trade. You lose your army, and maybe you take out his army, maybe you don't. And out comes Empire.Kas. Combat shield, not complete yet. Infantry weapon, not complete either. It's going to expand behind this push, as you can see. Twilight Council coming up for Blink, I'd imagine. Now, I've got to say, Mana's army is quite small here. 31 supply to 54, and the pylon block that he got earlier actually did hinder him fairly significantly. He missed a round of warpings. 2 Vikings on the way up as well, and Kas could even secure another area here. Or we could, of course, try to doom drop across the top. Might not be a terrible idea. Mana still sticking on 2 bases. Not surprising considering the map that he's on. It's a bit of a stretch to go and take that one with Kas wandering around, but he's going to try it anyway. Kas has taken the front expansion. Nothing wrong with that. Fairly standard here for Terran. 72 army supply to 45. The problem is, still, he's going up against Colossus. So that army supply doesn't make a lot of difference if he can't kill them. He's only got 3 Vikings. 2nd Colossus on the field. 3rd one on the way as well. There's Zealot charge coming in. But honestly, Mana would just prefer to wait for 200. Right, he has no reason to really go and attack now. Kas is in a defensive posture. He can defend pretty much everywhere here, so unless he was to go for warp-ins, using, say, an observer or something like a warp prism, then there's not a lot he can do. He doesn't want to engage this. It's a nasty, nasty position to fight. Too close to Kas's reinforcement points as well. Now, 2 Colossus, about to be 3. 4 Vikings, about to be 5. 5 Vikings, not quite enough, really. The point of the Vikings is, needless to say, to kill the Colossus. But it's also the rate at which they kill the Colossus, because the Colossus are going to do damage regardless. Every Protoss player knows in this matchup that their Colossus are probably going to end up dying, but the point is, do they take enough units with them to be worth it? The small drop here by Kas prepared to attack, and I'm still not seeing as much drop play from Kas as I would like, and this is fairly unusual for him. 4 Marauder drop's going to be fairly unpleasant. A couple of Zealots being warped in, they're going to spot this drop coming. They can try and respond to it. It's like Mana is a little bit of a sleepy response to that. There's the Zealot charge, and more warp-ins to try and deal with this drop, and in the meantime, he's taking the opportunity to push up the front just a little bit, but Mana already sees that, and that drop is shut down for the moment. It did take 6 workers, well, actually more than that, 12 in total, so it's a fairly significant amount of damage so far. Pylon shut down as well. Charging Zealot's trying to move in, but that's a quick pick-up and go there by Kas. He is not going to allow that to happen. It'll be fairly terrible. Kas on 178, supply to 135. Mana is growing very, very slowly, and his probe count has taken a significant pounding He lost pretty much his entire probe line here, and what he's rebuilt is now going to be wiped out as well. Stretching Mana out a little bit, and perhaps the most vulnerable point in a game for the Protoss is when they take their third base. Especially having to duck and dive between these three is an absolute pain in the ass, and this can very easily happen, but Mana with a nice feedback there shuts that down completely. Now, Kas is about maxed out, so he'll be looking to attack shortly. His harassment's been more effective than the previous game, killing 16 workers. Problem is that Protoss can replace those so fast. Very, very easily indeed. Also takes the 4th as well, and Marlin's decided to go for an engagement without a full army, which is quite surprising. Trying to catch his opponent out, and that's exactly what he's going to be able to do. Will he be able to get the storms in one of the points? It's a good storm on the Vikings, and they don't move out of that particularly fast. Unfortunately, that Zealot gets trapped in the storm in the center. But if you notice, the force fields went down, followed up by the storm, took a significant chunk out of Kas's army. I would like to see a reinforcement pylon in the center here. That would be very, very nice indeed. Another storm, a lot more damage on the Vikings, and there's the Archons coming in as well. Mana with a reasonable army in the center, but he could be outflanked here if he's not careful. At least he's holding on to that Xel'Naga tower. He's going to see his opponent coming, but he's getting a nasty little arc here. Mana trying to get an engagement, and will he have a good enough concave? Kas has already got a fantastic concave here. More reinforcements coming in, but Kas crashes through that, and he needs to bring that Colossus out of there immediately. But I have a feeling it will fall. Got more torpedoes, and down it goes. Nice engagement there by Kas. Mana forced into a fight that he didn't really want to get into. Should have backed off a little bit faster. He did see it coming, but he didn't react quite quickly enough. So that's problematic. Mana's already managed to play catch-up, but he's still competing with mules, and whoever is spectating this is a frickin' spaz. $67 SCVs to 66 probes. Kas, once again, with a much larger army, and I don't know if Mana's going to be able to hold a straight-up fight here. I'm going to go with very, very unlikely indeed. Yeah, this is really going to suck for Mana. There's going to have to be some amazing storms, but so many ghosts in the mix already. Oh, nicely done. Sniped off before that one even did a damn thing, and that storm does very little, and I have a feeling that 3rd and 4th is going to go down. Massive EMPs going on right there. A huge storm to the right flank, but not enough, and Kas crashes through that army without a problem. This could be the end of this game for Mana here. Kas with much better engagements this time around, a much higher ghost count, helping out an awful lot. Down go the Colossus, and Mana GG's, and there you go. Really nicely done. A good shutdown there by Kas, leveling the series at 1 apiece, and not allowing his opponent this time to actually get that significant economic advantage that he had in the first game. We'll be right back very shortly, folks. You're currently watching the Twitch TV Invitational. Kas versus Mana, best of 7 finals, currently 1 apiece, so it's down to a best of 5. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.